Lovely to have Wendy with us in studio today, and we're starting with it's a little bit of a something old, something new kind of story today, because we're first circling back to the topic of car crash safety testing as we share some breaking news about the latest local model that has been put through its paces with not the best results. This one a very popular Chinese SUV, and the Automobile Association will fill us in shortly on the findings. And then in the second part of the show, we're going to ask why it takes Home Affairs so very long to update people's marital status after a divorce or widowhood, and to reflect on some of the consequences of those delays. So if you have been impacted by either of those topics, I hope you will share your experience with us in a WhatsApp to 0725671567. Lovely to have you back with us, Wendy.
Thanks so much,
And
Pippa.
I'll reintroduce our second guest in just a moment. But just to remind listeners of the context here, it was late last year that the news first broke that a 0-star safety rating had been allocated to the local version of the Hyundai Grand i10. And then it was just a few weeks ago we were chatting about the Toyota Corolla Cross, which did only somewhat better, a score of 2 stars for the safety of the driver and front seat passengers. And reminding listeners, this is out of a total possible of 5. Today we share breaking news of a third vehicle which has just undergone the same testing with, I gather, very similar results to the Toyota.
Yes, indeed, Pippa. So the Global New Car Assessment Program, referred to as NCAP, has revealed a third test result, as you said, on a South African car. And this is the important bit, because if you see a NCAP result, and sometimes we're going to get there, the manufacturers like to advertise this NCAP of 5 stars and whatever, it's only applicable if the test was done on a car that is sold in the South African market, because the cars are not the same. That is the whole point of this exercise. So they did, they purchased a Chery Tiggo 7 Pro, sent it over to Germany, where it was crash tested in, I did check this last night, in September.
I think they said, yeah.
September. The results were revealed in November to the manufacturer. That's important to state. They do reveal it to the head office, but one would think that that would be communicated to the
branches
local OEM. Yes. And as you said, results not great. It was awarded what Global NCAP has referred to as a very disappointing 2 stars out of 5 for the front passengers and 3 to the children in the back. Main reason for the 2 stars is due to the absence of standard side head protection for passengers, which we heard.
That was the same story with the Toyota Corolla Cross, yeah.
Yes, so both Global NCAP and its Safer Cars for Africa campaign partner, the Automobile Association of SA, known to most as the AA, have accused Chery South Africa of attempting to mislead local motorists by publishing 5-star safety ratings, which apply only to its cars sold in other markets, not the versions available here. And that it's not just the Chery Tiggo 7, but some of its other Tiggo versions as well.
Okay, so very, very important issues to look at here, and it's a great pleasure to have back with us in studio again the AA CEO Bobby Ramagwede. You're getting used to our studios. Nice to have you back again so soon, Bobby.
I am, and thanks for adjusting the aircon this time.
I was going to say, at least we're not putting you in a fridge this time around. Okay, over to you, Wendy.
Okay, Bobby. So like the Toyota Corolla Cross result, which we chatted about in depth last month, this is a disappointing result, and for pretty much the same reasons as the Corolla Cross. Could you explain for our listeners what the main safety shortcomings were found to be?
Okay, so similarly to the Corolla Cross, this one had a footwell that deforms when it experiences excessive load. That basically means that your feet are not entirely safe once you cross a certain force threshold. More importantly, because of the absence of side impact airbags, the car automatically scores a 2 out of 5. That means we could not do the assessment, and even if we did do the assessment, it would fail the assessment because there is inadequate protection for the occupants.
Sure. Okay, so both you and the Global NCAP execs who you work with very closely have concerns about Chery's marketing of its Tiggo brand, the various models within it. Shall we start with the in-house crash test that was performed later? I think it was August. In fact, I know it was August last year.
Correct. So that test, if I'm to summarize it, was not only misleading, but it was also pretty unsafe and not founded on any science. That's the concern there. when you crash test two vehicles, mind you, I think it was the Tiggo 9.
It was the Tiggo 9.
That was crash tested there. All you really demonstrated was what it looks like when two Tiggo 9s have a head-on collision. Very far from scientific, as I said earlier on, and not demonstrative of the safety features of the vehicle. You know, I probably would have been impressed if the CEO of Chery stepped out of the vehicle and said, "I'm fine."
But he wasn't behind the wheel, that's for sure. Maybe while we're talking about this and the issue of how scientific the tests are, for example, one of our listeners is asking, why are we having to send cars overseas to do this? Why does our own SA Bureau of Standards not test these cars? Yo's saying if you want to import a car, you have to pay for crash testing. In theory, these results exist when the manufacturer wants to bring the car in to be compliant and have their import docs. Why don't we do them locally?
We don't do them locally simply because the SABS has deemed them unnecessary at this point. So our biggest challenge has been that local standards are poor, European standards are great, and we haven't found a means to bridge that gap other than the AA and NCAP sending vehicles, and we have to limit it to popular vehicles, entry-level vehicles that are being sold in the market. Ideally, what we should have, and I say it time and time again, is that we should have an Africa NCAP housed in South Africa that tests vehicles long before they enter the market.
Yeah. And it also creates then, because there's not really advanced consumer awareness generally about the NCAP program, New Car Assessment Program, but they've heard of it and they know it's linked to safety. So that's why you will see in brochures on websites of local OEMs, car makers, you will often see it, it's got a 5-star Euro NCAP rating or Australasia NCAP rating. And if you don't know the background, you think, well, that's fantastic. And that's where the misleading.
Because it's not the same car
it's
that you're buying.
It's not the same car. And I think that's what, I've been following the story since 2017 when this collaboration between Global NCAP and Safer Cars for Africa with the AA started. And the whole point of the exercise is to make South Africans aware that the cars we get here, they might be the same brands and have the same model names. But under the skin, they are not in every case, especially not with the entry-level brands and not with the base brand. So sometimes, and this infuriates Global NCAP, they will put the traction control and the other safety features in
the more expensive
more advanced
model.
braking, in the expensive models. And that's why Global NCAP only crash tests the base models, because in their view, the safety features that you can put other bells and whistles on the more expensive models, but your base model, every model in the range needs to have the basic safety equipment. So I think that's the message that South Africans really need to understand and get angry about, I think, is that we're getting, in terms of safety features, there's amazing stuff out there that is obligatory in other markets. You can't sell a car without them, and we can name some of them later. But in this country, because our standards are so low, they don't have to put them in.
Okay.
And so the car you're buying for your school leaver, who's going to be doing long distances in it, hasn't got traction control, which after the seatbelt saves the most lives, and it's really not a huge expensive thing to put in a car.
Yeah. So just for Anthony and another person asking what were the other two cars we mentioned. So Anthony, the Hyundai Grand i10, that news we heard late last year already, that it had achieved a 0-star in I think it was the front passenger as well. And then more recently we heard about the Toyota Corolla Cross receiving the 2-star front and passenger rating, as now applies to the Chery Tiggo that we're discussing. Bobby, just to bring you back in here, so you were talking about Chery conducting its own crash test and using that as just, let's call it what it was, a marketing ploy to say, buy our cars, look how safe they are. You've used words there like misleading, not based on science, not actually demonstrating safety features. And I mean, it must be it's very hard to sit with the knowledge that kind of messaging was being used. Even, I mean, when was that happening? Was that before or after we knew this latest safety rating?
So the crash test was done before we knew the safety rating. But to Wendy's point earlier on, the the news about, or rather the dissemination of the information about the Euro NCAP rating came afterwards. In fact, shortly before we released our publication, that no, the local car has scored 2 out of 5 on GNCAP, and there is a car which is sold in Europe that scores 5 out of 5. Now, there is a question to be asked to the consumer, which is, if the motor manufacturer can produce a car that's safe, why aren't they doing it for you here?
Yeah, because this exact car, the Tiggo 7 Pro, on the Chery South Africa's website, if you go there now, you can see, they'll say it was launched in Australia recently and introduced to South Africa as the Tiggo 7 Pro Max. It achieved a 5-star safety rating from Australasian NCAP. The 5-star NCAP safety rating is confirmation of Chery's commitment to excellence in automotive safety, ensuring the utmost protection for its customers and other road users in Australasia.
As I say, it's not the utmost for us here in Africa, is it?
Because it's not the same car. And so that's the problematic messaging. I have asked Chery South Africa to respond. Actually, because I had all this information under embargo yesterday. I sent it to them last night, and I've just checked, and there's still no response.
No responses yet. Obviously, if they do send an update, we'll share that with you. But I think also just important to pause here, because a few people are asking, just saying, shouldn't it just be mandatory to declare this kind of thing on the on the windshield when you're selling a car, as others do with fuel consumption? Yes, the more information that is shared, the better. But the important thing to emphasize here, and Bobby, back to you on this, just to remind us, the car makers don't have to do that because the law doesn't require them to have these features in the cars.
Yeah, unfortunately, they've got a crutch, and it's a valid crutch. They're not committing crimes of legality. I think they're committing crimes of morality, knowing very well that they've decided that lives in other markets are more valuable than lives on the African continent.
I mean, that's as bald-faced as it is, because it's literally, and let's just name a few, Wendy, the features that you mentioned, that you cannot sell a car in Europe without things like the electronic stability control. What are some of the others that are absolutely essential, not optional there, that we regard as optional?
There are a few, and it's not just in Europe, it'd be in the US and in most cases Australia as well. Automated emergency braking, that's a huge feature. They will save a lot of lives. An advanced airbag system, so your sort of all-round airbags. I think those are the main ones. Bobby, can you
particularly
think of something
else? On airbags, side impact. Very common that South African accidents, in fact, from our data, many an accident involves side impact.
Yeah.
So for a vehicle to land in the country with absolutely no protection for side impact is laughable.
Yeah.
Inexcusable, I would say. And what do you say, Bobby, to the justification that it would make the cars unaffordable at that, at the entry level for South Africans if that had to happen?
I love this question. And the answer to that is always, what is the price of a life? Mm-hmm. Surely, if you want to sell vehicles and you want South African motorists to continue enjoying these vehicles, you're not going to have them buy up their safety. The purpose of the program is to democratize safety. And the moment an OE turns around and says, well, we're going to increase the price, then I automatically respond, so the price of a life in South Africa is the additional 500 Rand? Surely not.
And let's not forget the irony is that compared to the other markets, South Africa's road accident rate is horrendous.
Horrendously
one of the highest
higher
in the world. So if there's any market that needs the
every
protection,
single possible safety feature, it's ours.
Yes.
So true. Our rate is so high that if you removed it from the stats, then the global average would drop quite significantly.
Sure. Okay. So obviously we drive these roads. We know, we observe this behaviour, and we participate in this behaviour ourselves at some point, and our children see it. So this is the bottom line. B asking, will the new Toyota models that are being launched later this year also potentially have below standard safety features? Again, to emphasise, for all of these vehicles, it's the base model entry level that has been tested, because we know that those are the ones where they're getting away with the absolute bare minimum possible.
And they also tend to be the biggest sellers.
Okay, because we are such a price-sensitive market. Yeah. But Bobby, if you were okay, so again, to specify, this is a particular Toyota Corolla Cross, a particular Hyundai Grand i10, and a particular Chery Tiggo. Now, it's not the entire range that has achieved these ratings. But Bobby, I mean, if you were in the market for a vehicle that is a Toyota, a Hyundai, or a Chery, what sort of question would you recommend our listeners ask the dealership that's selling it to them with these ratings in mind?
Very first question, more of a statement. Show me all of the safety features on the standard list, and then show me all of the safety features on the derivative just after that one. And if there are discrepancies, then ask them why.
Okay, so the standard list versus the derivative list.
And we're talking only safety features.
Purely
if they want to
safety
put better sound systems in and sharper mags and all the rest, absolutely fine.
But if they have peeled back the safety features, then the question is why, and why should I trust your brand to have my driving safety at heart if you are willing to bring a model in with those stripped back models. Before we run out of time, Bobby, I mean, anything else? Thank you very much for coming in to repeat this incredibly important awareness raising of the fact that we have this terrible, absolutely unjust and undemocratic gaping hole in the difference between what South African law allows and what other overseas markets will allow in terms of vehicle safety. Anything else you'd like to just highlight before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think it's time for the consumer to start taking their safety into their own hands. Let's prioritize safety features over luxury features. And I fully do appreciate that budgetary constraints tend to dictate which car you buy, but by asking the right questions that are safety-led, you'll find yourself in far safer vehicles.
Yeah.
And that is the bottom line.
Yeah, rather buy an older model that's more superior in terms of safety features.
Yeah. I mean, that is really the question you need to think about here is, okay, if price is your sensitive point, and you think you're better off buying a new vehicle because it's going to have more safety features in it.
Not necessarily.
The fact is, actually, you would be better off buying a second-hand, more luxurious model.
Yes.
That might have had more of these features put in as standard when it was sold new. Okay, that is the thing to digest and think about here, as well as, I think, to Bobby's point, raising our voices about just the unjustifiable gap in what we allow in terms of safety features and regulations in South Africa. A huge pleasure to have you back with us again, Bobby. I'm glad we were able to turn the temperature up for you this time. Thank you for coming in. Bobby Ramagwede, CEO of the Automobile Association.
I've heard from quite a few people who've, friends of friends or my own friends or relatives that have come out and ordered beg your pardon, a certain class of rental vehicle, and they pick up, I'm not going to name them, but some of the cheapies, little lightweight cars, and they've just been absolutely appalled at the handling, and that you can't see the safety features, but they just didn't feel safe in the car. And they're into sort of white-knuckled stuff, trying to keep the car in its lane, and have gone straight back and said, I would like a car, I'll pay more, but I'm not having this car. Yeah, and in a few cases, the agents on the in these depots will say, this happens a lot.
Okay.
So I think our foreigners coming from these other markets with different standards definitely notice.
I will share an observation that now that I think about it, I noticed it the other way around. I've only driven once in my life in another country, and that was on a road trip in Ireland with my son a few years ago. And we were doing it on a budget, and I had ordered the cheapest possible rental car available. And I was astonished when I picked it up at how many bells and whistles and things it had.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what kind of brand it was. It was a car I'd never heard of, because when I went to pick up the car, I said, I've reserved one, and she said, would you like vehicle A or vehicle B? I'm like, well, I don't know either of them, but they had so many more features at the entry level.
I had the exact experience in Ireland as well.
And the handling was so much better than what I have been used to driving in South Africa. So I think it works both ways. Delighted to say we have got Barry on the line. We've managed to connect with him. Barry, thanks for your patience there. You wanted to make an observation about what you've seen and noticed in driving when you rent a car here in South Africa versus what you're used to overseas, I believe.
Yeah, well, back home I drive what's called the Yaris Cross, which is very, very different to what you described with the Corolla Cross. I mean, I've been driving hybrids now for nearly 11 years, but that's a different thing. But the technology on my latest Yaris Cross, which is just under a year old, it does have automatic braking, which has been very, very handy a few times. It has the simulated, when you're at low speed, simulated view of the camera over the top of the car, and it gives 360 degrees round. But the one thing that I would love to have here in Cape Town, especially here, is in cars of about the last 18 months, including mine, in the very corner of the wing mirror itself, there's a little orange light icon on both sides. Mm-hmm. And if there's a car coming up on one side or the other, in your blind spot, and we all know we've got a blind spot, where you can't see, you can see what's well behind you, and you can see things coming up. This thing flashes in the corner of your eye.
Wow.
And it's fantastic, and therefore you're not going to make an impulsive pull, change lane or anything like that, although the car itself, it has lane control and everything else. So it does seem to be so different, the testing that goes on, and standards, as what you were saying. I never realised it. At the moment, I've got a rental vehicle, obviously. Yeah. Pretty basic.
Barry, thanks. It's so interesting to hear that observation. And to your point, and again, this is the reason we keep on talking about this. It is this just completely intolerable situation that it is our own legal framework that allows it. Yeah. Again, none of these vehicles that we've been talking about have broken the South African law by selling those cars here. What they are selling is within the limits required by set by our law. The problem is that the laws need to change. And urgently.
The regulations, it's governed by the National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications. They allow them to strip out some of the stuff that they're forced to put, the safety stuff that they're forced to put in the same cars in different markets. Keep saying that because it really needs to sink in. I think people need to understand that so that they can what an injustice it is.
Absolutely.
Perfectly legal, though it is.
Yeah. Okay, so to the people asking what is Chery's response, we haven't had one yet. We have reached out to them. They were aware of the fact that we were having this conversation. But Wendy, until such time as we get a reply,
the AA one to share. Said that, and I didn't try on the phone, I just sent an email, but the AA told me another motoring journalist that I know had phoned, and the answer was pretty much the same as Hyundai's around the Grand R10. We comply with all the South African standards.
Yeah. And that is the problem.
It's just a bit of a but.
Yes, that is the problem. The standards are not high enough. Okay. Yeah. Are the cars cheaper in this market without all the parts? Asks Yo. Well, that is one of the factors, that it's cheaper for them to bring them in and cheaper to sell them, and we know it's a very price sensitive market. But to Bobby's point, what is the cost?
And also the strip out some of the other stuff. Let consumers get used to if it is a price sensitive thing. We need to be comparing safety features, not sound systems.
Yeah.
And nice to have bells and whistles that don't affect how you're going to fare if you have an accident.
Yeah, so if you're going to strip features to keep the price down, strip non-essentials.
Yeah.
Safety features are not non-essential. Yeah, okay.
But that has to be driven by consumers.
Yeah. Shona also calling in saying the cheapest rental car she got in Japan was absolutely amazing. So many more safety features, even beeping if you didn't go when the light turned green.
Oh, really?
Wow, okay. Oh my gosh.
That must be camera driven, camera on the front of the car.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for that, Shona.